They say time heals all wounds. 8 years later, mine are still open, and hers are buried. I don't know if I was protecting myself, or if I destroyed everything on purpose. Maybe both.
Welcome to Reddit Toxic Family Telltales channel. New episode every day.
I swear, sometimes life feels like one of those messed up movies where you think things can't possibly get worse. Then they do. My girlfriend's so-called best friend once shoved me down a staircase, twisted her against me, tried to torch my house, and even put his hands on me. Yeah, that little stunt landed him behind bars. But life didn't exactly get easier after that. See, I'd been medically discharged from special forces after a mortar blast shredded my leg and wrecked my back. Back home, bruised but alive, I found myself reconnecting with my high school sweetheart. For a while, things actually felt, right, comforting, until the night I woke up to the sound of someone creeping up her stairs. Instinct kicked in. I grabbed my shotgun, stepped into the hallway, and shouted a warning. The intruder froze and immediately screamed my girlfriend's name. That's when I realized it wasn't a stranger. It was her brother, or at least that's what she used to call him. Except, plot twist, he wasn't her brother at all. He was some strung-out junkie she used to work with years back. Once, in a moment of kindness, she'd given him a cheeseburger when he was coming down hard. Apparently, that earned him a lifetime membership in her family, at least in his own head. He started begging her, saying he'd been evicted, nowhere to go. And since it was her apartment, I had no say in the matter. She caved and let him move in. That was the beginning of hell. This guy had zero respect. He barked orders like she was his maid, demanded meals, laundry, groceries, treated her like dirt. And then, one night, he looked at me, this smug look on his face, and told me to wash his dishes. I laughed in his face, told him to shove it, and turned to head down the stairs. But I hadn't made it 3 steps when the door behind me slammed open. He barreled out and shoved me hard. I crashed onto the concrete floor below, my head bouncing off it, pain shooting down my spine. Before I could recover, he jumped on top of me, fists flying. I don't even know where the strength came from, but I powered through, flipped him over, and started pounding him into the ground. I wasn't holding back. In that moment, my brain had already made the calculation. Someone was leaving this fight broken, maybe worse, and it sure as hell wasn't going to be me. But then I heard her voice. My girlfriend came running, screaming at me to stop. Her face, I'll never forget it. Horror, panic. She thought I was about to kill him, and maybe I was. I froze, climbed off, hands still shaking with rage. And that's when his filthy mouth opened. Sister, he threatened to kill me. He threw me down the stairs, just because I asked him to bring back the PS3. Yeah, he said that. For one terrifying second, I thought she might actually believe him. But thankfully, she knew me better. Plus, the security cameras outside captured the whole thing. His lies didn't stand a chance. The next morning, I drove her to work and dropped off her little girl at daycare. That's right, my girlfriend had a 3-year-old daughter. And let me tell you, she was the sweetest little thing you could imagine. Pure sunshine. That kid melted my heart every time she called me by name. But when I walked into work with a bag of ice on my head and bloody knuckles, my boss nearly blew a gasket. He wanted me to call the cops right then and there. I refused. I told him if I called the police on her brother, I'd risk losing her. My boss stared me down and said, "You're a special kind of stupid, and you're going to regret this." Spoiler alert, he was right. Because then came the ultimatum. Her junkie brother told her it was him or me. If she wanted him out of her and her daughter's life, fine. But if she wanted him around, I had to go. And here's the gut punch. As pathetic as that guy was, he'd been the only consistent male figure in her daughter's life since she was born. That little girl adored him. And my girlfriend couldn't bring herself to rip that away from her child. So, she chose him. I can't even describe the pain. I'd have preferred an actual axe to the chest because at least that ends quickly. But this, saying goodbye to the woman I loved, and to a sobbing 3-year-old who clung to me like I was her dad, that shattered me in ways I didn't know I could break. Back at my apartment, I packed up a little box of their stuff. Clothes, toys, keepsakes they'd left behind, planning to quietly drop it off later. I was broken, empty, but that wasn't enough for him. No, he wanted to bury me completely. Turns out, when he bragged about having friends who'd handle me, if he asked, yeah, he wasn't bluffing. These weren't just drinking buddies. These were guys with rap sheets and violent streaks. First hit. I woke up one morning and found my car stripped, tires gone, windows smashed, spray paint across the doors. The insurance barely covered half. I was out over $2,500 just to get it drivable again. 2 weeks later, round 2. This time, an attempted arson. Some masked idiot tossed a Molotov cocktail onto my doormat. Flames roared up instantly. If it hadn't been for the apartment sprinklers, I'd be ashes right now. And no, I wasn't about to swan dive off a 3rd-floor balcony to save myself. That's how low things got. That's the hell one person's manipulation dragged me into. The arson attempt changed everything. Suddenly, this wasn't just petty vandalism anymore. This was attempted murder. The police were very interested this time, but like before, the guys had covered their faces, worn gloves, left nothing usable behind. It was frustrating. They were ghosts on camera. For about a month, things went eerily quiet. Then my ex reached out. She'd heard about the fire. I told her point blank, "It was your brother." I know it was. But without hard evidence, it was just my word against his. She promised she'd talk to him. And, coincidentally or not, the harassment stopped for a while. Of course, when cops started circling back around to question him about the fire, things shifted again. By then, she had basically forced him to get a job or she was kicking him out. So he'd landed a part-time gig at this shady auto shop in town. The kind of place you wouldn't take your worst enemy's car to, unless you actually hated them. Crooked mechanics, cutting corners, ripping people off. Perfect environment for him. But the day the police showed up at his job asking about that fire, the owners wanted no part of it. He'd only been there a couple weeks anyway, so they tossed him out without hesitation. He wasn't too thrilled about that. Fast forward. One night, I pull into my complex after hitting the gym, sweaty, tired, grocery bag in hand, driving a rental since my car was still in the shop from the vandalism. I lived on the 3rd floor with another flight of stairs above me. My door was cracked open as I brought in the groceries. When I heard it, heavy footsteps racing down from above. I turned just in time to see 4 guys. Hoods up, masks on, gloves covering their hands. Coming straight for me. My stomach dropped. I ditched the groceries and tried to slam my apartment door shut. But one of them jammed a foot in and forced it open. They pushed their way inside. What happened next lasted exactly 14 seconds. I know because after the fire my neighbor had installed a security camera facing the hall. Later, investigators told me the timestamps. See, I had a pistol stashed in the closet right by the front door. Yeah, I know, leaving a loaded gun there was reckless, but back then I was younger, cockier. In the chaos of fighting off the first guy through the door, I managed to reach in, grab it, and shove myself back to create distance. 4 masked men stood in my hallway. The first guy lunged again. I raised the gun. A Sig Sauer P226, chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson. And the second one shouted, "Gun!" And that was it. My training took over. No warning shots. No shooting at limbs. I did exactly what I'd been drilled to do, body, head. The first guy dropped immediately. 2 rounds that went through him tore into the second man before I put another straight between his eyes. The third froze for half a second before I put 4 into his chest. And the fourth? He spun to run, but I emptied the rest of the mag into his back as he tried to flee through the door. It was brutal. It was fast. And it was over. Now, here's the part that changed everything. The last guy, the one who survived, was her brother. 3 of them didn't make it out. Pronounced dead right there. The carnage. Let's just say it wasn't pretty. Blood sprayed across my wall, across the floor. It was like a war zone in my living room. But the brother? He lived. Barely. 3 bullets hit him. 1 grazed him, 1 buried itself in his backside, and the last ripped straight through his spine, right near his kidney. It shattered his vertebrae, paralyzing him from the waist down. From that moment on, his life was permanently changed. No walking, no dancing, no girlfriends, nothing. He needed a catheter, diapers, round-the-clock care. And when he was finally healthy enough to leave the hospital, they wheeled him straight into prison. In the end, I wasn't the one who got buried. He was. After the dust settled, the justice system had its say. He wasn't just paralyzed, he was charged. Because when 3 men die in your little crew, and you're the one who dragged them into it, you get hit with everything. He was slapped with conspiracy to commit murder, assault, battery, you name it. And because I'd been firing inside an apartment complex with neighbors across the hall, he even caught reckless endangerment charges tied to that. The irony? He was the reason I had to pull that trigger, yet the law piled those extras onto him. Bottom line, he was never going to breathe free air again. Now, I wish I could tell you that was the moment my life turned around. That she saw the truth, came back to me, and we built the family I always dreamed of. That I adopted her little girl, and we added a couple more kids of our own. But no, that's not how my story ends. Within 24 hours, she cut me off. She told me she was terrified of me, that she didn't want me anywhere near her or her daughter. She threatened to call the police if I so much as showed up at her house or workplace. That hurt more than I can explain, especially because her workplace was a target I used to love stopping at. After that, she unloaded every insult in the book. She accused me of manipulating the cops into provoking her brother just so I'd have an excuse to shoot him. She conveniently erased the arson attempt, the vandalism, the threats, all the things that put me in danger for months. None of that mattered anymore. To her, I was the monster. And then, she was gone. Blocked me on everything. Changed her number. Moved stores, switched apartments, cut all ties. Her family cut me off too. It's been 8 years, and I've never spoken to her again. Through the grapevine I've heard she remarried in 2020, had another kid, and seems genuinely happy. And honestly, good for her. I mean that, but me, I never got the white picket fence ending. I never got the fairy tale. People don't tell you this, but taking lives, even when it's in self-defense, even when you've been trained for war, changes you forever. It's different when it happens on foreign soil, when it's part of the job. But in your own living room, in your home, that's a wound that doesn't heal the same way. I came back with PTSD. For a full year after the shooting, I couldn't even touch my guns without panic flooding through me. The Navy backed me up through it all. They helped with the investigation. They even offered me protection on base until things cooled off. That same commanding officer who once called me the apex donut even vouched for me. Backing my story of the morning her brother ambushed me. I was given the chance to live under guard. I turned it down. Maybe out of pride, maybe out of exhaustion. But one way or another, my story didn't end with triumph. It ended with survival. And sometimes that's the only ending you get. 8 years have passed since that night. Since then, I've retired from service. These days, I run my own LLC, doing cybersecurity and site security consulting. Business is good. Money's solid. Sometimes, I even take the boat out just to remind myself what peace feels like. And on the personal side, for the last 3 years, I've been with someone who is hands down the most loving, supportive partner I've ever had. They've got my back in ways I didn't even think were possible anymore. We're even talking about kids, before time gets too far ahead of us. Life's good now, really good. But you know what really warmed my heart the other day? A little notification. See, 8 years ago I set up a Google alert with his name, and just recently it went off. His full name, followed by the word obituary. Turns out, my ex's brother, the junkie who tried to destroy my life, finally ran out of luck. In prison, he kept running his mouth, acting like he was untouchable. Apparently, he thought nobody would dare lay a hand on a guy in a wheelchair. But inmates aren't exactly known for their patience. They used his own wheelchair against him, then finished the job with a few vicious stomps. Of course, that's not how the obituary put it. Oh no, the write-up painted him as a bright and lovable young man who fell on hard times. Classic sugarcoating. The only shocker? Apparently, he had a daughter. None of us ever knew back then. Poor girl. I doubt she ever even had the chance to know him, and honestly, that might be for the best. So yeah, life has a strange way of closing chapters for you.
Thanks for watching. Today's train wreck is over, but tomorrow's ride is already on track. Subscribe so you don't miss it.